the weather changes at the races, things always get spicy. But when the weather changes at a race which is taking place on a brand new track with fresh, soft dirt, well, things can get a bit too hot to handle. Spoilers ahead for those who haven't watched round 2 of the World Cup in Poland. Allow me to gift you fine viewers a quick recap of the event and see if we can answer some burning questions that I have, like why did Valley fold up top? Did Loris's wild moment cost him the win? And would Lachlan Stevens-McNab have won if he had stayed on his bicycle? We'll get to that, but first of all, let's go Heather Wilson. Heather bust into the junior category back in Fort William and really threw a spanner at the apple cart which rocked the cat and majorly upset the pigeons. Yeah, as Fort William was our local race, a lot of people thought that once we arrived at round 2, the established junior females would be back on top. It was definitely close, but Heather showed composure, aggression, strength and skills which surprised a lot of people, including myself. What's also surprising is that her time would have placed her 4th in elite, despite the juniors racing in wetter conditions. Great result, taking 2 wins from 2, and she now has a solid lead going into round 3. The junior males followed the same formula, with Asa Vermet also backing up his round 1 win with an extremely confident run in the slick conditions. You could see the rain coming down and the shine on the ground as he went to work on that Polish hillside. The most impressive thing was his composure and precision despite the greasy conditions. I did not see him break traction anywhere, which was a stark contrast with a lot of his competitors. The only loose moment on camera was the double stump drop we analysed during our Inside the Tape video. Go watch that if you haven't already, it's actually really good. Asa hit the gap, but instead of pulling up high and deep like a few others, he actually squashed and skimmed the stump, which was super quick with a little squirm on the exit. He said himself the conditions did get a little bit worse for the riders after him, but it was still a solid win. In the elite female category, it was the consistent Marine Cabarrou who kept her cool and danced the balance with speed and sketch to smoothly get to the bottom of the hill faster than everyone else. And I'm not bitter that I swapped her out of my Pinkbike fantasy team to rebalance my budget. God damn it, Ben. Her consistency was uncanny, with her posting the 3rd fastest sector on the first 4 segments of the track. That doesn't sound like a race-winning formula until you see that the other racers were more erratic, with no single rider going fastest in more than 1 sector. After being smooth and consistent for most of her run, she then lit up the lower woods and committed hard into that steep to claim her first fastest sector and the win in Poland. Now, the elite men was a whole different barrel of haddock. It wasn't the winner from the last round. He wasn't even a past winner. It was the king of practice, the wild man, the inside the tape ghosty winner, Ronan Dunne, that sent it down the Polish hillside to take his first ever World Cup win. While diving into the stats, I realised that Ronan is one of those riders whose public image and results sheet don't actually align. He's an absolute wild man on track who goes at sections with what appears to be reckless abandon. Usually this type of riding and person leads to a sporadic and poor result, but look at this weekend. 3rd in qualifying, 4th in semis, 1st in the final. Last year, he legitimately qualified for every single final without protected status and finished the year just outside the top 10. He placed 11th at the opening round, he won hardline at the start of the year, and now he's won his first World Cup and is sitting in 2nd in the overall. Ronan Dunne is a wild man, but he's also reliable. Right, recap done, time for the stories. What happened to fastest semi-finalist and series leader Valley Höll? I am glad you asked. Someone, get me my analysis crayons. Crayons! Let's have a closer look at this crash from Valley. You can see her coming in up the top section, round the corners, looking clean, and here we go. Washes the front, hits the deck. It was a hard hit. She was lucky she didn't badly injure herself. So let's back things up and see if we can figure out what went on. So over the crest, and in here, riders are braking super hard for the next corner. You can see her getting on the brakes and a big hole has developed there. And look at those forks, they are down in the travel. So there's a big hole over that crest. She's getting super hard on the brakes and that's causing her forks to bottom out. And when that happens, there's a big force that goes through the bike. And then after you clear the hole, this is what happens. So look at those forks, they've changed. So let's get the drawing out again. Those boulder bashers are at full extension now. The front end is now unweighted, which means the tire cannot grip as she's initiating that turn, and it's a perfect recipe for a loss of traction. Let it roll.
Slow-mo. There it goes. It's still sliding. It's still sliding. She tries to dab, but she's going so fast. There's just nothing she can do to save it. Down, onto the ground. So lucky she didn't do a collarbone. Slides round the corner. And that's it. Just a tiny mistake, a slippy bit of track, a big hole, and she is down.
So that was an unfortunate mishap for Valley, but what was really impressive was how she just cracked on after crashing. Mud in her gloves, fury in her eyes, and then she posted the fastest sector on the very next section of track. That is how a champ deals with misfortune. I've got two other stories for you because I couldn't actually decide which ones were best. So, Loris Vergier did the 1-2-3 this weekend with first in qualifying, second in semis, and third in finals. He did have a big old mistake in his run and one of the best saves I've seen in a while. I guess the rumours are true, he really is several cats wearing a human suit. What I want to know though, did he lose enough time with this mistake that he would have won?
Now I have to pre-warn you here, this is the jankiest dartfish I have ever darted, but we do get a result, so let's see what happens. So here we go, it's Vergier versus Dunne. So they come round that pad, Dunne scrapes it, and then Loris washes the front, and then he disappears, he goes small, he goes big, he comes back in again. You can see Dunne is way out in front, he rails around that turn. Loris is nowhere to be seen, the dartfish is really struggling, and then he comes to the line, and the difference is only 0.48. And that is not enough for Loris to have taken the win, but I'll tell you what, it was interesting. Fair play dartfish, there's absolutely no way that should have been possible.
So nope, he wouldn't have won. Still, flipping good save though. The final story for you is the absolute breakout performance from Lachlan Stevens-McNab. This kid spent 2 years chasing Jackson Goldston and Jordan Williams, hiding in their shadows in junior, and then he moved up to elite and just had terrible luck with injury after injury that put him out of action for most of last year. After smashing win after win back home in New Zealand this off-season, he's coming into this year firing on all cylinders. He kicked things off with a career best 7th in qualifying, a career best 5th in semi-finals, and a career best 1st place at intermediates 2 and 3, before washing out a high speed on the innocuous turn that also took out Nathan Ponvion and almost claimed Marine Cabarrou. Let's have a closer look at why and then muse about what would have happened if he had stayed on.
Let's get a closer look at Lachie coming in. He tucks the front and hits the ground. Just so sudden. Lots of riders did it. But was it just a simple tuck of the front? Let's back that up and have a closer look. So he comes into the section. He comes a little bit high. And then when he hits the corner, it does look like the front tucks, but I'm not so sure. Was it just the line? Let's have a look. He comes in. Yeah, a bit high, has to turn tight, but the back end steps out, and then the front steps out. So it wasn't just a simple tuck of the front. So he comes into the corner. Let's see if I can explain this a little bit better. So at this point, his inertia is wanting him to go straight on. And when you turn, what happens is you create this centrifugal force that is felt by the rider and bike. And you need an equal and opposite centripetal force, and that is the grip from the tires. As he enters the corner and the back wheel slips, his mass briefly resumes its initial direction, which removes those forces. And then, as it grips, those forces are reintroduced, but now the front wheel is at a piece of track where there is not as much grip. So that centripetal force, that grip that is demanded of that front wheel, it's just not there. And what happens is the front wheel washes out. So the momentary slip of the back wheel reduced the demand for grip and then suddenly reintroduced it when the front wheel was in a place where there was no grip available. But if this hadn't have happened, would he have won? So here's Ronan Dunne's sector times on screen. Now Lachie on his race run, he wasn't fastest at the top, that was Ronan's. Then he was fastest at the second sector, fastest in the third, and then he crashed. And Ronan was the fastest at the finish. But if we take Lachie's semi-final times and replace them, this is what we get. So he was faster in sector 4. He was close in sector 5, and he would have been just behind. But to finish first in a race, first you must actually finish. So Lachie needs to find that balance so he can stay on the bike to the bottom, and this kid could win a World Cup in the future.
So that was an incredibly interesting race on a very fun and exciting track, which once again proves that the Pinkbike comment section is the habitual residence of all the biggest brains in the industry. It's becoming a bit of a trope, but if the consensus says no, then the truth is probably yes. Most of the time anyway. I'll see you in Leo, gang. Is it that way? Austria! To Austria!